Hello guys and namaste. So today we are going to work on a simple calculator which is going to look something like this. And before we actually move on to the code section of this video, if you are new to my channel, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel yet, please do. I would appreciate it even more if you just subscribe. Okay, so now let's work on the video. First thing first is your importing required libraries. So here we are going to use three. So first is your Tkinter, second is through your Tkinter you need TTK, and third is from your functools import partial. So this Tkinter basically is the main library which is used for GUI applications in Python. This provides basic window components like buttons, your labels and frames and etc. Now this TTK basically is a part of Tkinter which provides theming and styling options to make the interface look more modern. This will allow us to style widgets like buttons and labels. Now this functools is used to pass arguments to callback functions without directly invoking them. This library is basically for your events which you will have when you click on a button. Now to create the main application window, we will have a class basically. So tk.tk, and then we will have an initialization function here which basically calls your super, and then have some properties which we need to set. So very first thing for your calculator is going to be your title. That is a must. So this is what you see here. If you see this bar here in this, so that is what you have as title. So here you can set anything. So I'm just going to do simple calculator. Now I want to restrict the resizing or the resizable property of this calculator, and we have two properties in this method basically, which is your x and y coordinates, which means width or height or horizontal or vertical. So I'll put both of them as false, and then I want to have an expression string which is basically going to keep track of the inputs provided by the user. So here self.expression equals to blank for now, and then I'll have a method which I will create to have widgets like buttons, labels, frame. Alright, now let's see what we have done here. So we have used the calculator class which inherits from tk.tk, and here we make this the main application window. Now talking about the title, this sets the Windows title to simple calculator. Then this property basically signifies that we are preventing the user from resizing the window horizontally and vertically. So this will keep the calculator layout intact. Now self.expression, here we are having a string that stores the mathematical expression entered by the user, and this will get updated every time a button is pressed. Now this method is going to create the buttons and display of the calculator. Now let's work on the creating the widgets, which is your display and buttons. Alright, so now to create widgets, first we need to create the definition. So here what do we need? We need to provide the configuration, which is your style configuration. So for this I need to have a style object. Now I want to choose a modern theme so that it looks good. So this is where you can use theme use method, and you can provide the theme name. So for me it's clam, and then I can configure this theme to have a button basically, not a button but buttons, and then have font as Helvetica, and the font size which is 18 for me. Then I want to have padding to have some spaces as 10, and what else we need, foreground and background color. Alright, so I have white color as foreground and somewhat gray color as background. So then we want to map everything up, so style dot map, and here I will have T button, and then your background basically. So I will do active here and a color. So this property is for hovering, or if you are just clicking on it, in that case the color would be this. Now to summarize what we have done till now, so we have created the style object which is used to style the widgets, particularly your buttons. Then we have used the theme as clam, which applies a modern theme which gives a better look and feel compared to the default theme. Now the configure, basically in the first we have set the font to Helvetica and the size to 18. Then we have a padding which adds padding inside the buttons to make them look more spacious. And then we have a foreground and background color. Then this map attributes basically defines the button color when the button is clicked or hovered, and when it is active, in that case the button background color is going to be this, which is a lighter shade of gray. For display, what do we need is we need a display frame basically. So display frame, a new variable, and then we will create a frame, something like this. Now we need to pack this so that it is enclosed, so dot pack. Now we need to provide expand as true depending on the data basically, and fill equals to both sides. Now self dot display var, this variable I'm going to create, which is going to be linked to your display label, and this is just a string, so string var. Now the display label ttk.label, and here I have to map this with display frame, link this with a text variable which is your self.display var, and then I need to have an anchor which is E. Then your background color and foreground color, so foreground is going to be white and your background color will be this. Now what do we need? We need font, so I'll use this line, and here I'll choose the font size as 24, close it. Now we have the label with us. Now we will pack this, and again the enclosing will be same, expand equals to true and fill equals to both, but here I would use paddings as well for your horizontal and vertical size. Alright, now the explanation part. So we created the display frame, which is your frame container to hold the display label. Here we have pack, expand, true, fill both, which ensures that the frame expands to fit the window. Then we have a variable which is a string var, and this is a variable that stores the current value displayed in the calculator's display area. This will dynamically update the display whenever the content changes. Now display label, this is the display area where expressions and results are also shown. So this will have some properties like text variable, where we are linking the label, this display label, to display var, and it can display so that it will display the current expression or your result. Now we have this anchor property which aligns the text to the right, which is what you see in the traditional calculator as well. We have some background and foreground color. This is your dark gray background, and this is white again. Then you have font and font size. and lastly we packed everything up so that it fits the window. Alright, first thing first is that we need buttons frame. So ttk.frame, then we need to pack this so that it is enclosed in the window. Expand equals to true, and then fill equals to both. Then we need a list of list, which is basically going to have a 2D array kind of a thing, which will basically your buttons. So in your calculator you have a lot of physical buttons, right? So this is what we are going to have, but in a list of list. So these are the buttons that we require, and we have this list, and then inside we have multiple lists. So explanation, this is your container which holds all the calculator buttons, and this is your 2D list which defines the labels for each button. The outer list basically represents rows, and the inner list represents the set of buttons in a row. So the buttons will be displayed in the same order as you see here, right? This is going to be the same order. Now this is what you have defined. The buttons are not yet created, so let's create them. So first thing first is that we need to iterate over your list of list. So there will be two loops. First loop is going to be on your rows, and then second on your columns. Now the second loop, now the major thing is that we need to create the buttons here. So for that I will have a button object and a set of properties. First property is you need button frame, then you need the text displayed on that. So text equals to button text, and then you need the event. So here we will have partial, which we have imported while we were importing the libraries. Here we will have a method which we will create later. So on button click, and here we will have an argument which is going to be the character, which is button text. Alright, now we need to set this button on the grid. So grid means your particular x and y coordinate, and that we already know. Then your sticky attribute. So this sticky attribute ensures that the button stretches to fill the grid cell. So NSEW, and then padding x equals to 5, padding y equals to 5. Now because the padding we are keeping as 5, in that case we are going to have another loop for row and column configure. So row configure, here I will do I, and then weight equals to 1, and let me copy this, and instead of row this will be column. Alrighty, now the explanation. So the button creation, for that we need to iterate over our list of lists, which we did here. Then we got the text in button text value, and we set this button label through this property text equals to button text. Now this command equals to partial, this is basically to bind the button click event to a function, which is your this, and this takes the button text as an argument, and this will eventually allow us to handle different button clicks dynamically. Now the grid part, so this is to arrange the buttons in a grid layout with each button placed in a specific row and column based on the loop. Now we have this sticky attribute. Like I said before, this ensures that the button stretches to fill the grid cell. Now talking about paddings, so this will add the space between buttons to prevent them from sticking together. Now row configure and column configure, so these ensure that each row and column in the grid has equal weight, making the buttons resize equally when the window is resized. So in your button click events, basically you are going to have a lot of if else condition. So that is what we have to do in the first step. So this is your method and we have the character. Let me create the if else condition first and then I'll explain. Alright, so let's start with the first if condition. So here we say that if the button click is C, which is your clear, in that case I want to clear the expression window where you have displayed the commands. When you clear this, you just clear the variable in this step and then you have to display it as well. So for this you need to set it as well, and this is what we have done in this first if condition. Now when you have delete, that means that delete the last character from the expression window. So in that case I am doing this, which is getting a substring and which is exactly reducing the last character and getting the other ones, and then we are just setting everything up in the display again. When you have equals, this means that you have to evaluate the expression now. So whatever you have put up in the command that you want to evaluate. So for this we have a try and exception block, which means that if let's say something goes wrong while evaluating, if there is something wrong with the mathematical computation, in that case there will be an exception and we will display error there and the expression will be empty. But if this is not an exception, in that case we will evaluate it, set the value in the display, and then the expression will be set to the result as well. Now if we have plus and minus, in that case so now if we have characters like this, in that case what I'm saying that this is to toggle the sign of the expression. So if the expression starts with a negative sign, here if it is starting with the negative sign, in that case the negative sign will be removed, otherwise the negative sign will be added, right? And then we are just setting everything up. Now if nothing comes under these if else condition, in that case I just want to keep appending the characters to the expression window and then set the display as it is. Now to run our application we don't need much, we need a main call basically. So that is going to be somewhat like this, and then first thing first is that I'm going to create a calculator object, so like this, and then call the method which is your main loop. Now this main loop, this starts the Tkinter event loop, and this will keep the application running until the user closes it. Now let's run this, and we got the error. It says that object has no attribute on button click. I think we have made a typo, so this is on button click. So the typo is this. Let's correct this, and now let's run this again, and we have the calculator here. So let's do some simple operations like 7 plus 7, we got 14. Let's multiply it by 3, we got 42. Let's divide it by 2, we got 21. And what else we can do? Let's do multiply by 9. So this is working fine. Now if I do delete here, so it will remove 0 first and then this dot. So 0 got removed and the dot got removed. And if you see here, when you hover over it, the color is changing, right? When you click on it, then also it is getting changed. Now let's test our C. So when you click on C, then yeah, it's clearing everything up. So yeah, it's working fine. And that's it for this video. So this is it, what I wanted to do in this video. If you have any questions related to the code, do let me know on the comment section. I will put this code in a GitHub repository so that you don't have any queries or worries basically on the code. And if you have any other questions related to any other thing, then also do let me know. And this is it. So I will hope that we will meet in some another video. Till then, stay happy, keep learning, and subscribe to my channel.